It's started.
Right. Okay. So before we start, let's do a short prayer for a minute. Om yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedamscha prahinoti tasmai tam hadevam atmabuddhi prakasham mumukshurvai sharanamaham prapadye asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Kujantam Ram Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakham Vande Valmiki Kokilam Valmikir Munisam Masya Kavita Vanacharinaha Shriman Rama Kathanadam Konayati Parangatim Goshpadi Kritavarashim Mataki Kritaraksam Ramayana Mahamala Ratnamande Anilatmajam Jananandaram Veeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapishamakshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Vaidehi Sahitam Suradrumatale Haime Mahamandape Madhye Pushpakamasane Manimaye Virasane Susthitam Agre Vachayati Prabhanjana Sute Tattvam Munibhya Param Vyakhyantam Bharatadibhi Parivatam Ramam Bhaje Shyamalam. Okay, thank you so much, first of all, for providing this opportunity to talk in a very brief summary about the Sundarakandam chapter of Srimad Ramayanam. I'm sure everybody in this group will have gone through Ramayanam multiple times in various different forums, either in the form of Harikatha or after having read the book itself or after having seen the serial. So I'm sure nobody here is ignorant about Ramayanam as such, but it's always a pleasure to revisit Ramayanam any number of times, and every time we go through Ramayanam we learn something new. So that's the beauty about Ramayanam, and also about Mahabharatam, and also about all our Puranas and Granthas. Yeah. So the common knowledge about Ramayana is that it has 6 kandas totally. The tradition stops at Yuddha Kandam, Bala Kandam, Ayodhya Kandam, Aranya Kandam, Kishkinda Kandam, Sundara Kandam, and Yuddha Kandam. And there are some traditions which accept a 7th Kandam called Uttara Kandam. But then the Uttara Kandam apparently is a controversial Kandam because a lot of people claim that it was not originally part of Ramayana and it was added later on by somebody. Okay, so I'm not getting into that. So depending on which school you follow, you have either 6 kandas or 7 kandas, and in these 6 or 7 kandas, Sundara Kandam has a very special place because Sundara Kandam is a sort of turning point in the whole Ramayana. Where until Sundara Kandam starts, until the end of Kishkinda Kandam, the story kind of goes down. It's kind of going in a deep dive. Rama, initially while Balakandam, Rama gets married and he's preparing for the Pattabhishekam and all that. Suddenly Dasharatha has to withdraw the offer, and Rama is sent to the forest, and then Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, they all go to the forest. And then they go through a lot of hardships, and at some point, Sita gets abducted, and then Rama falls into a big grief. So all the way up to Kishkinda Kanda, it is kind of sliding down. And then in Sundara Kandam, the story kind of takes a U-turn, and then things start looking more and more positive and optimistic. So, very often, I don't know about the other parts of India, but in the South, there is a tradition that whenever somebody goes through a bad patch in their life, whenever they are in the midst of some crisis, it is generally recommended that you read the Sundara Kandam, and just by reading the Sundara Kandam, your difficulties will vanish and you will find a solution to your challenges. So that's the faith with which at least the people in the South read Sundara Kandam. So Sundara Kandam holds a very positive and a very special place in the sense, not only for Sita and Rama, even for ordinary people like us, Sundarakandam can offer a turning point, and it can offer a solace and hope and optimism. So it is for that reason that Sundarakandam is special. And unlike the other 6 or 7 kandams, the Sundarakandam, the entire story happens in a matter of 3 days. From beginning to end, the story is over in 3 days, and these 3 days are very intense. And the entire Ramayana has about 24,000 shlokas, and Sundarakandam alone has about 2,800 something shlokas. So you can imagine, Sundarakandam is more than 10% of Ramayana. Okay, and the story is intensely packed in 3 days of action-packed, events. Okay, so that's a general background to Sundarakandam itself. So the whole story of Sundarakandam starts with the Vanara Sena, or the part of Vanara Sena assigned by Sugriva to go and explore the southern part of the world. When Rama eventually meets Sugriva, and then they end up killing Vali, and then they make Sugriva the Vanara king. Rama and Sugriva have this understanding that once Sugriva becomes the Vanara king, Sugriva will help Rama to find the location of Sita. So what Sugriva does is he dispatches 4 teams of Vanaras on all the 4 directions. So one team goes towards the east, one goes towards the west, one goes towards the north of India, and then the most important team goes to the south of India. And in that team, you have Angada, Jambavan, Hanuman, and a lot of important players who are part of the team, and they are sent towards the south because a lot of evidence is available to show that Sita was taken in the southern direction. So the chances of finding Sita were much higher for the southern party. So very strong people like Angada and Hanuman were chosen for that. And in fact, Rama gives Anjaneya a small token of identification from his side. He gives his ring to Hanuman. He did not give anything to the other 3 teams. With Hanuman, he sent his ring so that in case you meet Sita, you show this to prove your authenticity, that you are really, Rama's messenger. So with so much of preparation, the Vanarasena comes to the southern tip of India, and then from there they see the ocean, and then they start debating who can jump across the ocean, and then they finally decide that Hanuman is the best candidate to do the jumping. So the first chapter of Sundarakandam begins with Hanuman getting ready to do the leap over the ocean. And so we have a description of how Hanuman starts this whole journey towards Lanka, because he has to make one single jump from this end of the ocean to the other end, and there is no landing in between, because if he's going to stop somewhere, he's going to land in water. Okay, so he has to be very sure that with that one jump he lands in Lanka and not somewhere in the water. So he starts growing and he becomes what is called a Vishwarupa. And then with that huge size, and of course Hanuman has a siddhi that he can make himself very light when he wants. And he is also Vayu Putra. He is the son of Vayu Bhagavan. So he has the assistance of Vayu Bhagavan to take him across. So he has all the things going for him. So with that kind of a preparation, he takes a jump and he goes on top of a small hill called Mahendra Parvata, and from there he kind of starts a jump. And before he jumps, he tells the Vanaras, if I don't find Sita in Lanka, I will go and search all the 3 heavens, and if I don't find her there also, I will bring the whole of Lanka along with Ravana, I will bring him back. That's the kind of confidence and energy with which Hanuman starts the jump. Okay, and then he starts flying in the air. And then as he flies and before he lands in the other side of the shore, he faces some 3 or 4 challenges. The first challenge is the Samudra Raja or Varuna Bhagavan. He wants to help Hanuman. So there is one particular mountain called Mainaka Parvatam, which is hidden inside the sea. So Varuna Bhagavan requests this Mainaka Parvatam to go up above the water and help Hanuman take a short rest or break. And with that intent, the Mainaka Parvatam comes up and above the water and stops Hanuman. But then Hanuman doesn't know why that mountain is coming, so he thinks it's some kind of a obstacle. So he kind of slaps that mountain to get rid of the mountain, and then the Mainaka, Devata, he comes in a human form and says, "Look, don't think I am your danger. I am just here to help you, and can you please rest on me? Take some rest and then move on." But then Hanuman says, "No, thank you. I cannot stop because I have told my team that I will not stop anywhere. I don't have the time. So thank you so much. But yeah, that's fine." So then he moves on. So that is the first obstacle. Then the second obstacle is, the devas are watching Hanuman doing all these things. So they want to give a small test to Hanuman. So they have a Rakshasi, or what they call Sura Mata. There is a particular Rakshasi whom they call and say, "Okay, you go and stand in front of Hanuman and threaten him. Let's see what happens." So this Surasa, she comes in the form of a big Rakshasi, and then she says, "I have this boon from Brahmaji that I can eat you. So I'm going to eat you now." Okay. So she challenges Hanuman, and then they both have some kind of a competition. So Hanuman says, "Okay, you become big enough to eat me." So she becomes, some 10 times big, and then Hanuman becomes 20 times big, and then she becomes 30 times big, and so on. And then this goes on for some time, and suddenly, when she becomes so big, Hanuman suddenly becomes a very small, microscopic, shape, enters her mouth and comes back in a second and says, "Look, I have entered your mouth, so I have fulfilled your wish, so you can now leave me." So then this Surasa becomes her normal being and says, "Okay, I just wanted to test you. Now I am very happy with your intelligence. So I wish you all the best." And she blesses him, and Hanuman moves on from there. Then the third obstacle, what happens is, there is a particular Rakshasi inside the water who can just catch hold of the shadow and stop the flying objects. So that Rakshasi catches hold of Anjaneya's shadow, and so Hanuman suddenly becomes stalled in mid-air, and he's wondering what is happening. Then he realizes, Sugriva had already told about this called Chayagrahi. So the word Chayagrahi means one who can catch hold of the shadow and stop you. So Sugriva had warned about Chayagrahi before Anjaneya left Kishkinda. So then Hanuman realizes that this Chayagrahi is a Rakshasi, so he somehow manages to kill her by entering her mouth and then becoming small, entering her heart and then breaking her heart, and so on. So he ends up killing the Chayagrahi Rakshasi also, and then finally he manages to reach Lanka. Okay, so this the whole adventure is described in the first chapter. The first chapter is about 240 shlokas or something. So the whole Sundarakandam has about 68 chapters. Each chapter is called Sarga, and the biggest chapter is the first Sarga, which has about 240 or shlokas. And this entire journey from the Mahendra Parvata to Lanka is described in the first chapter. And then what happens after he lands on the Lanka shore? It is sometime around late afternoon, and then Anjaneya decides that if he enters in broad daylight, he'll be probably caught by the Rakshasas. So he wants to wait until dusk, and then he decides to enter Lanka after sunset. So he's kind of waiting there for the sunset to happen, and then the sunset comes, and then he makes himself into a very small, size. As I said, Hanuman has the siddhi, so he can make himself very big. He can make himself very small. He can make himself into very heavy. He can make himself very, very light also. So he has all those powers. So with all those powers, he makes himself into a very small monkey shape, and he tries to enter the Lanka through the main door. But then there is a Lankini, who is the Nagara Devata for Lanka. She is very smart, and she catches Hanuman and says, "Who are you? You cannot enter Lanka without my permission. How dare you enter here?" So Hanuman tries to kind of argue with her and try to persuade her with good sales talk and all that, but then she is not to be budged. And then what she does is she slaps Hanuman and thinks that she can overwhelm him. But Hanuman being Hanuman, he gives her one solid punch with his left hand, and then she falls down, completely losing her consciousness. And then she somehow recovers and says, "Okay, now I know, because long back Brahmadeva told me that the day you are conquered by a Vanara, the time for the Rakshasa's end has come. So now I understand that you are that Vanara. So now I understand that the days of Ravana and his Rakshasas are numbered. So I wish you all the best. You can now go because you have conquered me. So with that fourth adventure, Anjaneya enters the Lanka, island, and he enters the city where Ravana has his palace, and all the other people also have their palaces. So the next few chapters, actually until the 9th or 10th chapter, is a description of what all Hanuman watches and observes as he makes progress through the city. He looks at all the buildings, he looks at all the Rakshasas, different types of Rakshasas, short ones, long ones, tall ones, fat ones, people with 2 eyes, people with 4 eyes, all those things are there. That's not important for us. So finally he goes from house to house looking for Sita. He doesn't have an idea. Ravana's Lanka is a huge city, and so Sita could be hidden anywhere. So Hanuman has to make sure that he has searched every place. So he kind of makes a very systematic search, and he goes from one house to another. All the ministers' houses. He goes into Kumbhakarna's house. He goes into Indrajit's house. He even goes to Vibhishana's house. And then there are a lot of other mantris and senapatis of Ravana whose names are mentioned. He checks everybody's house systematically. He doesn't find Sita anywhere. The thing is, Anjaneya doesn't know who's Sita. Anjaneya has actually not seen Sita, so he doesn't have any photographic identification as to who is Sita. So he's kind of guessing by looking at the people around and kind of guessing whether this could be Sita, whether this could be Sita, and so on. So he's only guessworking. So finally he ends up going to Ravana's palace itself, and then he searches all over Ravana's palace, and finally enters the place where the Ravana's wives are sleeping. Now Ravana has multitude of wives. He doesn't have just one wife. And at one point in that 11th chapter or 12th chapter, Valmiki uses the phrase Trivanam. That's the word Valmiki uses for Ravana's Antapuram, the harem. It's called Strivanam. Vanam is actually a forest with multiple trees. And here Valmiki says this is Strivanam. This is a forest of women. Now, that many wives and the concubines Ravana had. And so he sees, by the time he reaches Ravana's bedroom, it's probably midnight. So everybody is sleeping. And they've all had a gala time in the, maybe in the late evening. And then they're all very fast asleep. They're all tired. So Anjaneya goes looking at every woman's face there and looking, is this Sita, and so on. And somehow he is convinced that none of them is Sita. And finally what happens, at some point he ends up coming to the bed where Mandodari is sleeping. And looking at the beauty and that glory or the glowing face of Mandodari, for a fraction of a second, Anjaneya mistakes her to be Sita, and then he's kind of elated that I found Sita. For a fraction of a second, he's elated, and he actually jumps up and down. The Valmiki actually says, by jumping up and down, Anjaneya was exhibiting the Vanara qualities. Until that point, Anjaneya is, depicted as a very balanced person, very courageous person. But just at that point, Valmiki says Anjaneya kind of betrayed his Vanara-like qualities. So then suddenly, he kind of gathers his mind and says, okay, no, that's not possible. After being separated from Rama, Sita cannot afford to even sleep. So I don't think this is, Sita. And so he dismisses that thought. And then on the one side, he's been trying with a lot of determination to find Sita, but then he realizes that, look, I have looked everywhere and I have not found Sita, and he becomes dejected. And he starts doubting his own capabilities, and he at one point even contemplates killing himself. He says, look, I have come this far, I've taken so much of pain to cross the ocean and enter this dangerous place called Lanka, and I've come all the way up to Ravana's bedroom. I've practically searched everywhere, and I'm not finding Sita. So if I go back now and tell Rama that I have not found Sita, what all things can happen, you know? And he kind of imagines that, you know, if he is going to tell Rama that Sita has not been found, Rama will kill himself, and looking at Rama dead, Lakshmana will kill himself, and knowing that Rama and Lakshmana are dead, if the news goes to Ayodhya, Bharata and Shatrugna will die, and Sugriva will die, and seeing Sugriva die, Ruma will die, Angada will die, everybody will die. So he doesn't want everybody dying because of his one mistake. So for some time, he's kind of depressed, and he's contemplating what to do next. And then at that point, it dawns on him that, you know, until now, I have been looking for Sita based on my own capabilities. I was so hooked up upon my ego and my ahambhava that I will find Sita, I will do this, I will do that. I think that's not the right attitude. So he now surrenders himself to Rama and other devatas, and he offers a prayer. He offers a prayer and says, hey Rama, hey Sita, please help me find Sita. You know, so there is a beautiful shloka. I'll try to get that shloka. And that's the shloka he kind of, recites when he's sort of about to give up. You know, he's almost giving up his hope, and he's even thinking of killing himself. But then he becomes a little more humble. And where is the shloka? Yeah. Namostu Ramaya Salakshmanaya Devyai cha tasyai Janakatmajayai Namostu Rudrendra Yamanilebhyo Namostu Chandragni Marud Ganebhya. Yeah, so he kind of offers a prayer. And at that point, the turning point is basically from depending on his own strength, he's now surrendered to the grace of Rama and the grace of other devatas, and seeking their help to find Sita. Okay, and then he kind of calms down a little, and then he looks around. He goes around all the quarters of Ravana's palace once again to make sure that, you know, he's not missed anything. And then he kind of goes into a contemplative mode, and then he kind of looks outside the palace, and then suddenly he sees that there is one Ashoka Vanam which is outside the palace, which is some kind of a back garden which he has not yet explored. So he's got now some hope. He says, okay, I have been looking inside the building, maybe I should look somewhere outside. And then he thinks, okay, let me go and explore this Ashoka Vanam. And then he goes there and starts going from tree to tree. And then at some point he sees there is a big tower there. And then he goes near the tower, and from there he kind of looks all around. And I think by that time, the night kind of gives way to dawn, and there is some kind of a light also available. So, there is no electric light in those days, right? So you have to wait for the dawn before you can look into the garden and look at the trees. So around the dawn time, he is able to see that in the distance, there is one particular tree under which there are a lot of Rakshasis, and among the Rakshasis, there is one very lean and very weak lady sitting there and crying. So he's kind of, he now notices that, and then he goes closer. And then he sees that there is this lady actually who is kind of weeping, crying, lamenting, and she's surrounded by a lot of Rakshasis. And he starts thinking, okay, maybe this is Sita, maybe I've got some luck. But then he wants to confirm. So he moves a little closer, and he goes almost near that same tree where Sita is sitting. And then he kind of waits further for some more confirmation. And then by the time it is proper dawn, and the day has started, and then he hears some noises from Ravana's palace. And the people have started waking up now, and Ravana has woken up. All his other wives have woken up. And when Ravana wakes up, the first thing he remembers is that you have to go and meet Sita. So he gets dressed up, and then he comes from the palace to the Ashoka Vanam tree where Sita is sitting. And because Ravana is coming, all his other wives are also coming. Mandodari is coming. So there is a whole retinue of Rakshasa and Ravana Patnis coming. And then Hanuman watches all this. First, he hears the noise. And then he's kind of wondering what kind of noise is this. And then he sees that Ravana is now entering the Ashokavanam. Then he recognizes Ravana because the previous night he has been in Ravana's bedroom. And along with Mandodari, he has also seen Ravana. So he knows who is Ravana. So he now knows Ravana is coming here. So he's kind of a little cautious. He makes sure that he is hidden well inside the trees, and then he is listening and observing what is happening. So Ravana comes, and then as soon as Sita notices Ravana coming, she kind of turns around and shows her back to Ravana, and completely ignores him and all that. And then Ravana starts talking to Sita, and he says, hey Sita, I've been waiting for your consent. You have to marry me. You have to accept me as your husband. How long will you wait? He's trying to kind of woo her and give all sorts of sweet talk. That is one chapter. So that is about the 19th chapter or so. One full chapter where Ravana talks to Sita and gives her reasons why she must accept Ravana and why she must forget Rama. And he even says, you never know whether Rama is still alive. He may be dead for all you know. So all your waiting may be in vain. So he tries to kind of demotivate Sita. And then Sita gives a reply, and she says, you are actually a coward. You are like a dog, which was not able to face the lion called Rama, and you kind of snatched me from the ashrama in the absence of Rama. So you are really not worthy of any respect. And really speaking, you should return me to Rama, but you kind of abducted me because your end has come. You're going to die anyway. I'm sure Rama will come to Lanka, and I'm sure he's going to kill you. So there is no way I'm going to accept you. So you can do whatever you want, and he threatens Sita that, if you don't accept me, I'll even kill you and eat you for breakfast. Okay, or the Rakshasis will kill you and have you for breakfast. And then she says, no problem. You burn me, you eat me, you cut me, whatever you want. I don't care. Yeah. So that's a conversation for about 2 chapters. Then Ravana is very, very angry. He threatens her, okay, I'll give you 2 months time from today. In 2 months, if you don't accept me as your husband, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to have you killed. And with that, he leaves. And after he leaves, the Rakshasis surrounding her, who are guarding her, they all pounce on Sita, and they kind of bully her, more or less, verbally bully her and say, everybody gives their own reason, why Sita should accept Ravana. One of them says, Ravana is actually Prajapati's grandson. He's not some ordinary Aisa Vaisa Raja. He's Prajapati's grandson. So you must accept him. So another Rakshasi says, Ravana is somebody who has even defeated Indra. And even the rain gods and the sun god are afraid to, show their power to Ravana. And he's got thousands of women in his palace, but he's leaving all of them behind and coming to you. So you must be actually proud that he's approaching you. So all those reasoning they give. But then she says, nothing doing. I am not going to be, accepting Ravana in any way. In fact, he is not even worth the dust particle from Rama's foot. That's the kind of comparison she gives. And then she says, if you want to eat me, you go ahead and eat me. I don't care. But then, even though she's kind of showing that brave front to the Rakshasis, inside her, she's also feeling very weak and dejected. So at some point after this conversation, the Rakshasis kind of fall asleep, because maybe they've all been waking up during the night, and so they all fall asleep around the dawn time. And at that time, Sita, in fact, decides to commit suicide by putting her pallu on the tree and trying to hang herself. And just before that, one of the Rakshasis, who happens to be the daughter of Vibhishana, her name is Trijata. Trijata comes and chastifies all the Rakshasis who are threatening Sita and says, you Rakshasis, you must be very careful, because today in the dream, I saw something that is going to actually be very frightening for you people. And then the Rakshasas are kind of shocked. They say, okay, what is this dream you had? Then she says, in the dream, I saw Rama and Lakshmana come on Airavatam, and they rescued Sita and took her on the Airavatam. And in that dream, I saw Rama wearing silk cloths, I saw Sita wearing silk cloths, and I saw Lakshmana wearing silk cloths. And afterwards, they took the Pushpaka Vimanam and went northwards. And in that same dream, I saw Ravana traveling on a donkey toward the southern direction. In that dream, Ravana had lost all his hair. He was completely mundan, and he had oil all over his body and face. And at some point, Ravana fell from the donkey, and the goddess of death dragged him by the, pasham and all that. I saw in the same dream Kumbhakarna going through the same, kind of thing. I saw all the sons of Ravana, undergoing the same, donkey ride and all that. The only exception to that was Vibhishana did not die. Vibhishana was, still, having his glory with all his ministers. But I saw the whole Lanka being burnt by the Vanara Sena. So all these descriptions Trijata gives in that, from the dream that she saw. And, this kind of frightens the Rakshasas. And then she tells the Rakshasas, this kind of a danger is going to come to Lanka and all of you. So you people better surrender to Sita and ask her to offer you protection. And then the Rakshasas have some kind of a change of mind, and then they say, oh, Sita, we are very sorry for what we did to you. So please accept our, request for Sharanagati and all that. So all that happens. But in spite of all this, Sita is still very dejected because she sees no hope. She's been probably abducted for about a month or month and a half by then. No, she says, I've been here for 10 months, exactly. So she's been here for 10 months at that point. So for 10 months, she's not had any kind of hope. So she's slowly losing hope, and she wants to end her life. At that point, what happens is Anjaneya is observing all this. So he thinks that, look, okay, he's got the confirmation now that this is Sita. So all doubts are clear. Okay, so he has the option now to quickly go back to Rama and say, yes, I have found Sita. But he doesn't want to do it because he kind of reasons into himself, look, Sita is so depressed now that if I go without talking to her and without telling her that, we have successfully located her, she's probably going to lose hope and maybe going to kill herself. So even if we succeed to come with the Sena to Lanka, we probably will not find Sita alive. So at that point, he starts thinking that it is important now for me to give hope to Sita, to tell her that, look, you still have hope, don't worry, don't kill yourself. You keep your courage and you keep your, brave front, and just wait for us. So with that intention, he wants to talk to Sita. But then he has a problem because he is a Vanara. And Sita has already had a problem in the forest when Ravana came to her in a disguise and took her away. So he starts thinking, now if I go and talk to Sita in this Vanara form, she's probably going to suspect that I am also Ravana's disguise. So he's somehow wanting to communicate to Sita without making her, suspicious, or without, shall we say, engendering fear in her. So with some very clever thinking, what he starts doing is he starts singing the glory of Dasharatha and Rama and the Raghuvamsha. So in a very short chapter, he sings in a human voice that, there is a city called Ayodhya, and then this Ayodhya has a king called Dasharatha, and Dasharatha's son Rama is there, and he's a Parakrama, he's a Veera, he's a, he's a Dhanuhpani, all that, he sings Rama's glory. And then he says, Rama had to come to the forest along with his wife and brother, and there in the forest, the wife gets abducted, and then Rama meets Sugriva and kills Vali. So he gives all those stories up to the point where he says, I am the Vanara who has now landed in Lanka, and I am now in the Ashokavana. Up to that point, he sings a song. And listening to this song, Sita is sort of surprised and also perplexed. And she's now wondering, okay, where is this voice coming from? And then she looks all around, and then she looks into the tree above, and then she sees this small monkey sitting there. And so she's kind of in two minds. On the one side, she's happy that she's heard somebody singing Rama's glory, and she's heard about Dasharatha and Lakshmana and all that. But she's also got this suspicion: is this really true? Am I dreaming? So she asks herself all these questions. She's kind of pinching herself and saying, am I really dreaming this? And then she says, no, no, I can't be dreaming because I've hardly slept in these 10 months. So I can't be dreaming if I'm not sleeping. So she has this debate within herself. And finally, what happens? Anjaneya slowly descends from the higher branches to the lower branches and comes to a branch where Sita can see him clearly. And from there, he starts asking Sita this question. Hey lady, I see that, you are some kind of a royal family, or you are some kind of a Devata or Gandharva or Yaksha or whatever. But since your feet are on the ground, I don't think you are really a Devata or Gandharva. So are you a Rajaputri? Are you angry with your husband or sons? Why are you here? Why do you want to end your life? Are you the Sita that I heard about? All these questions, he is asking. And then Sita kind of picks up courage, and she answers Hanuman, I am Sita, I am Rama's wife, I am Dasharatha's daughter-in-law, I have been abducted by Ravana, and so on. So with this short exchange, Anjaneya and Sita end up having a conversation. And then Sita asks him, you mentioned something about the Vanaras meeting Rama, and there is a friendship happening between Rama and Vanaras. So what is this all about? Can you give me the details? And before that, she asked, since you say you have met Rama, can you describe Rama to me? Can you describe Lakshmana to me? Can you give me his physical features? How do I know that you are Rama's messenger? So in one chapter, you see Valmiki describing Rama, physically and his character through the words of Hanuman. And Anjaneya describes Rama, how does he look? How are his shoulders? How valorous he is with the bow and arrow and all those things he describes. He describes Rama's character. He describes the way Rama speaks, and then he praises Rama's knowledge of various subjects and so on. And he also describes Lakshmana. How is Lakshmana? How are the two brothers? How do they work as a team and so on? And then he also explains what exactly happened when Rama meets Sugriva and how they ended up killing Vali and all that story. And so finally Sita is convinced, and at the end of this description, Anjaneya also hands over the ring that Rama sent through Anjaneya. And then he says, look, this is the ring that Rama gave, so that you can identify that I am really my, Rama's Duta. And then she is very happy. And then at one point, Anjaneya says, look, I know that you are very depressed now. If you want, you can sit on my back and I'll carry you back to Rama. He makes that offer. And then Sita says, no, that's not the way to do it. And she gives him a lot of reasons. First of all, she's not convinced that with this small monkey form, how will you carry me? That's the first question. Then Anjaneya says, look, you don't know about me. And then he starts becoming Vishwarupa again in front of her. So he starts growing and growing. And at one point, Sita says, no, you breathe, come back to normal size. I'm now convinced you can carry me, but I don't want to come with you because for various reasons. She says, first of all, you'll be going so fast across the ocean that I may be kind of, I may lose my grip on you and I may fall into the ocean. Or by seeing you carrying me back, the Rakshasas may come and fight with you. And in the fight, what will you do? Will you fight with them or will you protect me? So you'll have a problem. And then she says, on top of all that, I don't want to come into physical contact with another male. I had to be, touched by Ravana. I couldn't help it because I was alone. But on my own volition, I don't want to be getting on top of another male body, and that's not something I want. It is not befitting for Rama to get me back in this surreptitious way. She makes a very big point. Ravana stole me in Rama's absence. But when Rama gets me back, he must crash Ravana, he must crash all the Rakshasas, he must destroy Lanka and then take me back as a victorious Rama and not as a secret, victory. So this will not glorify Rama if you take me back. So I want Rama to come and individually, finish off the Rakshasa. So that will be what befits Rama's glory. So this is all the, answers that Sita gives. And then Anjaneya says, okay, I take your logic, you're very logical. I accept all that you say, but then I have to go back and tell something to Rama. So what will I tell Rama? How will I convince Rama that I actually met you? And then she gives him a story. She tells him about the story of the Kakasura, where in the Panchavati, where they were staying, one particular afternoon, both Rama and Sita are sort of sleeping under some tree, and then there is a crow that comes and disturbs her, and it starts pecking at her breast, and then she tries to keep the crow away, but then it continuously starts pecking at her, and at one point the blood from her breast starts falling on Rama's face. Because of that, he wakes up, and then he sees that Sita is so badly injured by the crow that he delivers a Brahmastram using a darbha grass, which the crow cannot, dodge. So the crow actually is the son of Indra. So that crow tries to run away from the Brahmastra. It goes all over the world, but nobody wants to save the crow from Rama's astra. So finally, the crow comes back and falls at Rama's feet itself and says, "Please spare me. What I did was wrong." And then Rama says, "Okay, this is Brahmastram. I cannot completely spare you, but I'll take your right eye, and then that will save your life." So with the Brahmastram, the right eye of the crow is removed, and then he pardons the crow, and then the crow goes back to its place. So this is a story that is known only to Rama and Sita. So Sita gives that confidential story to Anjaneya and says, "This is the story you can tell Rama." And then on top of it, she gives the chudamani, that ornament she wears on top of her head. She gives a chudamani to Anjaneya, and then says, in addition, you keep this chudamani and show this to Rama. This chudamani was actually given to me during my marriage with Rama by my father. So when Rama looks at this chudamani, he will remember not only me, he will remember my father and his father and everybody. So this is going to be a good memento for Rama. So with the chudamani, Anjaneya then decides to move back. But then before he goes back, he wants to leave a stamp on Lanka. He doesn't want to go back in a very peaceful way. So he wants to sort of announce himself and do, what is called a surgical strike. So he decides to, do some kind of a provocative war. So he starts the destruction of the Ashokavana itself. So he starts destroying the complete Ashokavana, and after destroying all the trees except the tree where Sita is sitting, he is then waiting and watching as to know what is happening. So he's thrown the first what is that called? The first astram he has shot. He's waiting for a reaction. Then this news goes to Ravana, and Ravana, hears it from the Rakshasis, who says, there is a Vanara there. That Vanara spoke to Janaki, and apparently they had a conversation. But we tried asking Sita, what is all this? But she says, I don't know who this is. There is actually there is a set of slokas that says, the Rakshasis ask Sita, who is this Vanara with whom you spoke? And then Sita says, I don't know who this Vanara is. He must be one of your Rakshasas, because you Rakshasas can come in all kinds of disguise. So she kind of disowns anything to do with Hanuman. So the Rakshasas go and tell Ravana that Sita denied having talked to Sita, but we know she talked to her. So you must punish this Vanara. So Ravana then sends a wave after wave of Rakshasas and soldiers to fight Hanuman. And there are some 6 waves of people who come. First, he sends some 80,000 Kinkaras. And those 80,000 Kinkaras he destroys. And then after that, he is waiting. And while he is waiting, he destroys a multi-story tower which is nearby. And there are some Rakshasas guarding the tower. He kills them also. That is additional provocation. And then the Ravana sends the next set of what does he say? Um, he sends one Jambumali, who is the son of one of his ministers. Jambumali is supposed to be a very great warrior, so that Jambumali is finished off. He kills Jambumali. After Jambumali, some 7 sons of the ministers, they come, Mantri Putra. They are also finished systematically. After that, he sends 5 of his commander-in-chiefs, all the big fellows he's sending. So the 5 commander-in-chiefs, they get finished. And then he sends one of his younger sons called Akshakumara. That Akshakumara is actually some kind of a teenager, but he's a very valorous warrior, and he gives a tough fight to Anjaneya. And then Anjaneya tries to kind of deal with him like a kid, but then he realizes that he's not a normal kid. So he decides to kill him, and so he kind of smashes him to the ground, makes a pulp out of him. And when Akshakumara is killed, the Valmiki says, you were not able to recognize any part of his body. They were all some kind of a jam, completely messed up. And finally, Ravana sends Indrajit. And Indrajit, as we all know, has very special powers. He's even conquered Indra. So Indrajit comes and fights Anjaneya, and then they have a very tough fight. Then Indrajit realizes that, this is not an ordinary person. So he sends he shoots a Brahmastra on Anjaneya. But then Anjaneya has this boon from Brahma himself, that the Brahmastra cannot kill him, it will only tie him down. So if he is hit by a Brahmastra, all that Anjaneya has to do is keep quiet for a few minutes, and then the Astra will go away on its own. Okay, so when Brahmastra hits Anjaneya, Anjaneya realizes that he has to now surrender. He surrenders to Brahmastra, and then the Vanaras take him to Ravana's court, and there he gets a chance to come face to face with Ravana. And then Ravana asks him, who are you? Why the hell did you destroy my garden? Why did you kill all my soldiers? What is this you're doing? So he says, look, I am not, Ravana asks you, are you sent by Indra? Are you sent by Kubera? Are you sent by Vishnu? He says, no, I am not sent by anybody of those kind of things. I am Rama's messenger. I am here to challenge you and tell you that what you did for Sita is wrong. You are taking away Sita is not correct at all. So I have come to give you a warning. If you don't return Sita, you're going to have a problem with Rama. We're going to attack Lanka, and you're going to face your death. So he gives a warning to Ravana face to face in his court. And then Ravana is totally angry. He's extremely angry. He says, kill this fellow. He orders his people to kill Anjaneya. But then Vibhishana stands up and says, look, he's a messenger. I know what he has done is wrong, but all said and done, you cannot kill a messenger. That's not what the Dharma Shastras say. So you can punish him in whichever other way you want. You can, normally you can give some lashes, what we called ghata. You have the lashes, right? So you can give lashes, but I don't think lashes will make any difference to Hanuman. So you can give him some appropriate punishment, but I don't think you should kill him. And he convinces Ravana that killing is not a good thing. So then Ravana decides to burn Hanuman's tail, burn Anjaneya's tail. And so all the Rakshasas tie up a lot of old rags and cloths and put some oil and burn Anjaneya's tail. But then it kind of turns back on them. The news goes to Sita that Anjaneya's tail is being burnt, and then she prays to Agni Bhagavan and requests Agni Bhagavan not to harm Anjaneya. So the fire doesn't actually harm Anjaneya at all. So Anjaneya has a kind of a cool feeling even though the tail is burning. And then when the Rakshasas eventually take him to the end of the city, Anjaneya frees himself from the Rakshasas, smashes all of them, kills them, and sets the whole Lanka in fire and makes the whole Lanka burn. He systematically goes from palace to palace to palace and burns every palace except Vibhishana's palace. He spares Vibhishana's palace and burns everything down. And then after he does it, and after he has extinguished the fire in the ocean by dipping the tail in the ocean, suddenly he realizes, oh, I have burnt the whole Lanka. Maybe I have burnt Sita also along with it. So what is this I have done? I have done a very stupid thing. So he again lapses into a regret mode.
and falls into a short depression for a while, and he's kind of again thinking, what can I go and tell Rama now that I saw Sita but I killed her? Is that not so stupid? So he again thinks of killing himself. But then his good fortune or whatever, there are some people who walk past, who are talking among themselves and say, it's a great surprise that even though the whole Lanka has been burnt, nothing has happened to the tree where Sita was sitting. So it's a great surprise that Sita is still alive. So then Anjaneya decides that, it's a good sign. I should now go back and visit Sita once more before I go back to Rama. So he goes back to Sita, again offers his pranam and tells her, don't worry, you will be taken care. We will come with Sugriva and, we will make sure that you are liberated. He gives her all sorts of assurances that in the worst case, I will carry Rama and Lakshmana on my shoulder and bring them to Lanka. Okay, so at one point, in fact, Sita has this question. You as an individual monkey, you were able to jump the ocean and come here, but you are talking about bringing an whole army to Lanka, and I'm sure there are thousands of Vanaras. How do you think thousands of Vanaras are going to cross the ocean? What Anjaneya says at that point, don't worry, my boss Sugriva is a great king. Once he has decided that he will rescue you, he will leave no stone unturned. And of all the Vanaras in Sugriva's company, I am probably the most ordinary one. Everybody else in the army are much more talented and much more powerful than me. So he makes a very humble presentation about himself. He says, there is a shloka there. I don't get the exact shloka because I have to go through some pages. But he says, I am probably the most ordinary of the Vanaras. All the other Vanaras are much, much greater than me. And with that assurance, he says, don't worry, in 1 month we'll come and you'll have the whole Vanara Sena in front of Lanka. Then he goes back to the other end of the shore, and he meets the Vanaras there. And then he reunites with the Vanaras. Then he narrates all that he has seen in Lanka, how he searched all over Lanka, how he eventually found Sita, and how he killed all the Rakshasas. All that story he gives to the Jambavan, Angada, and other Vanaras. And then they go back to Kishkinda. On the way, they come to a small garden called Madhuvanam. It's a special garden that Vali and Sugriva have been maintaining. And there a lot of honey or alcohol, whichever way you want to translate Madhu, that's called Madhuvanam. And all the Vanaras, now they want to have a party. We say, work hard and party hard, right? So Hanuman has worked hard, and now the Vanaras want to have a partying hard time. So they enter the Madhuvanam, and in the name of partying, they practically destroy the whole Madhuvanam. And then the guard or whoever is guarding that Madhuvanam gets angry. He tries to fight the Vanaras, but these Vanaras are already drunk on power and drunk on success. So they give a good fight back, and the guards actually get smashed up. And then they want to escalate this whole thing. So they go to Kishkinda and tell Sugriva, look, I have come with a bad news. These fellows have destroyed the whole Madhuvanam. But then Sugriva's, he understands what is happening. So he says, oh, don't worry. Nothing is bad. So you just tell them to come quickly and I want to meet them. So with that message, I think his name is Malyavan, the guy who's guarding the Madhuvanam. I forget his name. So he's supposed to be Sugriva's uncle. So even though he's Sugriva's uncle, because he's a government employee, he falls at Sugriva's feet before reporting all this damage. And then Sugriva says, don't worry, you just tell them to come quickly. I want to see them as soon as possible. And so Lakshmana is looking at all this reporting that is being done. So he's worried. Hey, what is this bad news you are getting that the Madhuvanam is destroyed? Sugriva says, hey, don't worry, this has been done by Anjaneya and Angada. So I'm sure they have seen Sita. If they have not seen Sita, they won't be doing this kind of a damage. So this is actually good news for you. You can be assured that when they come and report back, you would hear the good news from their own mouth. So then this man goes back to Madhuvanam, tells the Angada and other people to quickly go back to Kishkinda. So they leave Madhuvanam and they come to Sugriva. Then they fall at Sugriva's feet, they fall at Rama's feet, and then everybody is eager to hear the story once again from Anjaneya's mouth, and then Anjaneya recites all this thing once again, whatever he recited before leaving that place. He again tells Rama and Lakshmana and Sugriva all that happened, of course in a very brief. He doesn't brag about killing the Rakshasas and all that. He only tells the essential summary, what we call the executive summary. The essential points he narrates, and then he gives that Chudamani that Sita has given, and then Sita, Rama looks at the Chudamani and he has this emotional, a situation where he's again crying about Sita and all that, and the whole Sundarakandam then ends with Rama telling Sugriva, now let us prepare for the invasion. And that's the point where the Sundarakandam 68th chapter comes to an end. So they now have a clear idea that Sita has been located, she is in Lanka, she is in Ashokavanam, and these are the challenges, and now they have to sit and draw the plan for how to invade Lanka and how to launch the war. So that is the Sundarakandam in brief. And as I said, the whole Sundarakandam is about 2,850 shlokas, and if you have to read the Sundarakandam original in Sanskrit from beginning to end, it will take about 6 to 7 hours. The story, just the shloka, will take 6 to 7 hours to read. If you are very fast in reading, maybe you can do it in 5.5 hours. Yeah, so it's pretty elaborate and detailed, and I have managed to do the whole thing in about 1 hour by condensing a lot of stuff. So I'm sure I might have missed a lot of details here and there, but I think I have covered the gist of it. And normally what happens is, after you read the Sundarakandam, as the last chapter, you read the Pattabhisheka Sargam, where Rama eventually returns to Ayodhya after defeating Sita, and after taking Sita with him. He lands with the Pushpaka Vimanam in Nandigram, meets Bharata and all that, and then finally when they enter Ayodhya, the Pattabhishekam, the crowning ceremony starts. That is the final Sargam of the Yuddha Kandam. So the tradition has it that when you finish Sundarakandam, you have to read the Pattabhisheka Sargam also. And today I am not doing that because that will take another 20-25 minutes. So we will close the Sundarakandam chapter here by reciting 1 or 2 closing shlokas, which we normally do for the Ramayanam closure. Yeah. एवमेतते पुरावृत्तम् आख्यानं भद्रमस्तवः प्रव्याहृत वित्रब्धं बलं विष्णोः प्रवर्धतां लाभस्तेषां जयस्तेषां कुतस्तेषां पराभवः येषाम् इन्दीवरश्यामो हृदये सुप्रतिष्ठितः मङ्गलं कोसलेन्द्राय महनीय गुणाब्धये चक्रवर्ती तनूजाय सार्वभौमाय मङ्गलं वेदवेदान्त वेद्याय मेघश्यामलमूर्ते पुंसां मोहनरूपाय पुण्यश्लोकाय मङ्गलं मङ्गलाशासनपरैर्मदाचार्य पुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम्. Thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity and namaste. Bye.
Shubhratri, sir.
Thank you very much.
Shubhratri.
Thank you so much, sir.
Very,
Thank you.
very
It was-
interesting day.
Yeah.
I
Very
enjoyed
interesting
it.
and
Really.
very,
Thank you very much.
insightful.
Thank you very much.
insightful.
Thank you so much.
Vasudevan.
Thanks for being
Yes.
part of the meeting, and let's meet next Tuesday. Of course, you have the continued celebration, but I will come back on Tuesday next. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.